All right, welcome back to part two of this S2000 track build, rear quarter kind of build here. Let me just tune you in where we're kind of left off here. So we already cut all this out here, and I kind of this is taped in place of where it should go, but I don't want to glue these in yet. As you can see, this is a pretty good fit. It's a little bit missing here, but I can always push this in. The intent is all this is taped here. I'm going to fiberglass from the inside to connect this to this. So 3D print connecting to the actual metal of the car. Bumper comes out pretty good to the tail light there. If you recall, see this gap is real tight here. The gap is pretty big here. It's kind of loose on its hinges, so I'm just going to pull here from the middle. And to show you, if I can pick it up a little bit, as you can see, it's flexed it, so there's quite a bit more there now, right? And then there's less over here. So what I'm gonna end up having to do, I think, is this piece that was glued on, what I'm gonna end up doing is just sort of matching the gap, like to make it equal. And if I have to end up turning this in like this to kind of fit it or whatever, there's this gap here. Again, this will have fiberglass on the back side, and we'll clean that up. We'll get there. I just need to kind of, before I press any further on with this side, I have to evaluate this side. Now the tail light, at face value, obviously, you know, right here is a little crazy, but it matches up, excuse me, matches up with the bumper pretty good here. The trunk deck, you can see, it's weird, like as if this needs to shift further that way, which we know it cannot do. So I might end up pulling the bumper. As you can see, you can move and push things a little bit. That equals that, that equals that. We'll probably have to do a final adjustment on the bumper pull, but we'll get there. So first things first, I already have the 3D printed pieces of plastic. They're up there. But this is pretty decent actually. So I'm not gonna cut all this away. I think I'm just gonna kind of cut for right now here to like, maybe right here where this radius starts. And that's it. And this, maybe we'll have to do body work, a little hammer. We'll see. So, sorry for the yapping. Let's grab the cutoff disc and let's just kind of start cutting. It's got that glue, seam sealer everywhere. All right, here we are. After some banging and some hitting, it's not perfect. And again, I never trimmed this back yet. I'm just kind of getting a, that would roughly sit about there-ish. Doesn't mean it's the same contour because I'll need to shave some off there. Kind of screwed up there, left a pretty big gap. Not the end of the world. Again, there'll be fiberglass. It's going to be a little more filler than I'd like. This is kind of coming up, but here's what's crazy. It's kind of matching with the trunk, and I will say the trunk does not have any like latches. There's no latch or anything in it yet, so it might be a situation where I gotta like separate these two to help them contour the best. Because let's just grab this one out. Like I said with this one, that one's not going to be able to be, it'll be something like that. Whoop, taillight wasn't all the way in. But again, it'll be something like that. And this taillight, as you can see, I could push it in further that way. Gap here. This is a lot of just looking around here. I still think this needs to go that way a little bit. If it goes that way a little bit, which is fine. All right, let me cut this to be a little bit better of a fit, and let's go from there then. We're getting close. All right, I have to get out of the mindset that I'm going to get this as a 10 out of 10. It's just not for what I'm doing with it. So I kind of fucked up here a little bit, cut a bit too much, and it is what it is. I could 3D print another piece, and I might do that. but I don't think it won't not work. I know it sounds a little weird, right? I think, right, this needs to kind of come up like that, just a little bit there. And then this would need to angle down, or honestly, matches the trunk pretty dang good. Might just sit like that. But what I need to do is get this attached. So here's the gap. And again, this would, I can control that just a little bit. This side, kind of the same thing as I showed you earlier. I did fix the gap just a little bit. And again, this can kind of turn in, but everything's going to hinge off of each other. So I think what I'm going to do is, this is pretty good. This side is pretty lined up. That needs to stay down there. But I think what I'm going to do is honestly just fiberglass this in the backside just to hold this in place. That way I can get rid of the tape. It's rigid. It's there. And this side I'll debate about here in a little bit on if I want to just 3D print another piece or if I can get away with that, because I have a strip here. Something I totally miscut. I just shouldn't, this shouldn't be 2 pieces. And that'll end up just kind of going in there. It's kind of hard to tell maybe, but it is what it is. So let me, the only thing that doesn't really line up, everything's pretty good. The trunk needs to come over this way, which then it ruins the gap over there. So it is just is what it is, within reason. So that being said, I should be able to at least fiberglass this backside in and just kind of move on here, because this all looks good. I just need to get this trunk in the front to move over, but not move up back here. All right, so let me tune you back in with where we are on the S2000. Making pretty good dang progress. I'm pretty stoked at where it's headed. So here's the back so far. It is not totally body worked in. There's like some little low spots here and there, but I'm gonna guide coat it eventually, but a very quick guide coat just because of what it is. So if you can see there, probably need to sand a little bit there. It's a little bit not perfectly contoured there, a little gap there, but bumper's not fully bolted up, but it's in its spot. So I got some body filler down there I need to kind of sand out or leave and maybe just smooth out, who knows. And then I could add some here just to kind of relieve this gap. But there is a gap again, and it's a little wonky just because, again, the car was like shifted, moved all over, whatever. So here's the back view. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest, for what we're dealing with here. Now I can push the bumper in or out just a little bit. But you can see the trunk doesn't fully align here, but it does latch. Open and closes pretty good. So here's the passenger side that we've not done yet. So 3D print is laid on top. See, I didn't go all the way down here based off my model that I did. It's pretty good. It's resting where it needs to. And I've got excess. So I already made a cut in the body, all right? So I've got some excess laid up here. So I'm just gonna take a paint pen from the inside, mark where it goes, and then hopefully this gap right here will sort of resolve itself, because again, this is laying on top. So let me just, wrong S2000 keys. And the right S2000 keys. So you kind of see paint pendant area there, paint penned up there, and then I'm just gonna need to pull this off and then cut that excess. All right, so I got basically 3 ounces of resin set up here, 6 ounce fiberglass. I'm gonna do 2 quick layers just for some strength. All right, so it's been 24 hours. Don't necessarily need that much time, but you can see pretty good lay. There's no no bubbles or anything anywhere, but I've got some excess. Now, when it was kind of curing, maybe like at the hour mark, I probably could have taken some scissors and cut it, but I just wasn't here. I went off to work. So now it's gonna be simply just taking a cutoff wheel and some scissors combo and just kind of getting rid of the excess, flap disking it down to the shape. And again, I put the HVAC tape on here. That way no resin would just kind of come through. Granted, I'm gonna body work this. It's just kind of helping aid some of the cleanup later, I guess, if you will. But so let's get that cleaned up and let's retest fit it onto the car and we'll go from there. All right, so fiberglass trimmed off. So it looks like on the underside, and you can see I kind of ground there a little bit with the flap disc, solely because I'm gonna end up doing some, you know, some adhesive there. So I did make some marks, and The problem is this side was a little bit also more fucked up, right? And I'm just playing a game here with 3D prints. I can't remember if I showed you or not, but this piece, I ended up not gluing as one piece. I ended up just doing like a chunk here, and then I want to say this section right here, I ended up angling it to contour where it needed to be, and there ended up being a pretty good gap here, which was fine because it got filled in. On this one, it looked like I was pretty close. I didn't have to do that, so I just fiberglassed it all together the way that my model that I ended up building was. The problem with that is, I'll try to show you with one hand. So once I kind of have this pushed in, excuse me, where I have it, the taillight's a little bit behind it, which is not the end of the world. I'll see if I can end up getting it in after the fact, and if not, a little bit of some filing and contouring will get there. Now, there is a mark that I made right there in yellow. It's where this needs to kind of be for clearance of the hood, and then just kind of pushing this in. Oh, hard to see. Moral of it is that I could probably work. This sticks up a shit ton. So what I'm gonna have to do off camera here real quick is I'm just gonna kind of contour this, bend it, tweak it a little bit, which is kind of hard now because there's 2 layers of 6-ounce fiberglass on it. Get some good HVAC tape on it and see if I can get it to hold where it needs to be. All right, so here it is, shit show of tape. For the most part, you might be able to see the lines. This right here is pretty, has a little bit of give, a little bit of flushness. Again, the car's not gonna be perfect. As you can see, this is beat up and dented. So once this is done, I'll end up having to like do a little hammering, little body filler. But for the most part, I was aiming for this to be as concaved into the body panel a little bit. Here's real good. Up here's a little bit rough. Again, trying to push it down. The tape does a pretty good job, but it's a little difficult. It is what it is. We're gonna glue it now, and we'll see. So from the inside, it'll be kind of hard to see, but you can see where it meets the body. So we're gonna get crazy. So this is what I'm ultimately using here, just to do the first layer of adhesion. It sets pretty quick. I'll let this sit way longer than it needs to. And then afterwards, once this is on, I can pull the tape, make sure everything fits, and then maybe throw some fiberglass on the inside. I'll show you kind of what I did to the other side afterwards. But for now, we're gonna do this. Grab this paintbrush and just start painting on the inside. I'm not a lefty here, so we're gonna try our best. Get a good thick, and plus the tape on the outside is going to help it not seep through and just kind of let it hopefully make a flat bond here as much as it can. On the other side, I ended up doing this. It adhered really good, but I ended up having to do it twice. I couldn't get to everything. Like this clamp here right now is sort of in my way, but I'm gonna work with it. All right, so it's been about 24 hours. Just start peeling this tape off just to make sure everything kind of held. Some stuff might have moved ever so slightly. Hopefully not, but we'll see here. And again, all this tape was here just used to stop any of the JV like panel adhesive to come through. And if it wanted to come through, we just kind of hit this and stop and make like a flat bead, if you will. All right, so let's just evaluate what we're gonna do here. So again, the taillight's like, it's held in with 2 nuts, but it's not like, it's not gonna fall out on me, but I can move it around on purpose. So bumper is kind of bolted up. There's a gap there, but that kind of lines up with the trunk a bit better, to be honest with you, the way that it sits. So almost would be better, I think, just to sort of like do that. And there's a little gap down there, but we could probably easily, or more easy, address the bumper. Let's see, what do we got going on over here? There's that gap. Excuse me, but I think we're gonna go with that. Let's see, what if I pull, okay, I pulled that back. The bolt that's there is just loose. So we pulled that back. Let's see, and tilted that up like that. Whoop. I mean, I don't know if that's any better or worse. Again, I have to sand a little bit there to make the contour, but I mean, unless we let it hang out, I think in's probably better, to be honest, and just let that ride the way it is. Do that, massage this to fit best. And I'm only trying to figure this out now, right? Because I'm gonna do some more gluing. We're gonna glue here just to keep that down. And you can see it kind of moves this. When I push here, it kind of moves that. Or I could also do some gluing where this stays down, but then the trunk is, and I don't want to really mess with the trunk. It's good, it locks, it's there. So I think I'm gonna probably leave that there, glue this in, and we'll just end up, when we tighten it, we'll tighten the headlight up like that or something. All right, so, see? And again, in here is kind of all beat up. I understand that. It's gonna be probably pretty rough to get a seal there. So I might end up having to cut some of this away with a cutoff disc. I probably should have done that ahead of time, but we'll get there. As you can see, like this side I ended up cutting quite a bit. And this might look a little cleaner, but you'll never see this stuff down here. And you can see some of the adhesive came through here, which is fine. We're gonna end up sanding this, so it's not a huge ordeal. But I'm not gonna sand it until I take this taillight out, obviously. So let's pop the taillight out. Let's stick our hands up in here, because I can't get up here, and we're just gonna put some more tape down, and we're gonna glue that down. So the rest of this is pretty flush, so that'll at least be easier to body work, except for up here, like I said, but we'll get there. All right, so I didn't show it, it's just what I did in the previous clip, right, where I just threw that panel bond up in there to kind of help suck that in there, help that dry. And then I just cut this flange off. I'll probably clean this up a little bit later. Now, if you go to the edge of it, right, like and push, don't get me wrong, this is solid, it's got the fiberglass, but there's really like, it's not making any contact with any metal, right? So it's just sort of, it's got some leverage, it's solid back there. So I'm gonna add some rigidity. This is gonna be a little weird. I will probably, haven't done it yet, I'll probably throw some fiberglass back there too on that edge just to make sure it's strong. I didn't do it on that side, but what we're gonna do is, if you've followed me for a bit, you've probably seen this stuff. I still have a ton of it from, I don't know, I think it's only supposed to last for a year, but I've had it for like 2 something. It's the Smooth On Freeform Air. It's light as hell, and it's kind of like Play-Doh. So I'm gonna mix equal amounts of part A, part B, and if you can imagine just like Play-Doh, I'm just gonna kind of shove it into areas over there to just give it like a backing. It gets, when it hardens, I mean, you can drill it, you can tap it, you can machine it. It's quite hard. So let me just pour, well not pour, but grab 2 pieces out and we'll get to going. All right, so here's just a chunk of, you know, one of the parts. I'm not sure if that'll be enough. We'll just, every time I do this, I overdo it. That's probably way too much, but I've still got enough in here to still do some more if need be. I'm running depth on the bottom. I can see the bottom of the container. And what's interesting is about this stuff, if you haven't watched older videos of mine, you need water. Water kind of like helps you spread it. So nothing special, just again, take them and just sort of like you're almost mixing Bondo to a point or body filler or whatever. And just kind of keep flipping them until it turns one uniform color, right? I mean, it's a white and it's like a gray. So just wait till it's one color. I do recommend having another pair of gloves, because like I said, the more you start mixing this and it starts to like harden, it gets like a little sticky. Your gloves you're wearing are probably gonna go down the drain if you're trying to make this look really clean. I mean, I'm gonna try to smooth it out a little bit. I didn't actually show it to you, but I already did this to the passenger side, or driver side, excuse me. But when I start putting water to it, it'll kind of become a little more slick, so. Way easier to kind of come through under here and just sort of push it in through the back. Way better idea here. But when it pushes it out, it's whatever. I can just do this. Almost like a knife, and just kind of cut off the excess. That's all right. So I don't know what you're able to see by that angle, but I kind of shoved it all up in there, put it like a good nice bead, if you will, right? So it's underneath here, making contact from here to here. So it should adhere those 2 pieces together. You can see I got some up in there. I could probably smooth that a little bit better, but it's fine for what it's gonna be. And then we still have that drying. And then what I did is this area up here that maybe some of the panel adhesive didn't get into, I kind of just laid like a little bead of that smooth on stuff up in here. Then when I go to start sanding this, hopefully tomorrow or something, you know, it is. But you're gonna see, it'll end up being like this. I mean, this thing is rigid as hell. I mean, I've been sanding on it. So I need to sand off some of the smooth on stuff there, but you can see I did the same thing, kind of. Shoved like a little bead up in there, hardened. There will be a weather strip on here. Probably have to grab some duck bills and try to like straighten that the best I can. I mean, I know this thing's gonna be what it is, right? But there's that. So I guess we'll tune in tomorrow and we'll see what it looks like. All right, so it's been the next day. It's very solid now. Most of this has already, it's pretty cured up there. You can see where I got that in there earlier, the JB Weld stuff. It got through, didn't really get there, but that's fine. I mean, it's held back here. It's held over here. We'll be okay overall. Let me break that off. But now, I'm just gonna sand this whole thing with 60 grit, scuff it up, and we're gonna kind of go from there on what we need to see body filler. Because again, this is gonna be kind of a, it's probably gonna be the pain in the ass spot, to be honest. All right, so it's definitely not done, but there was no point in filming some of it. You can see I kind of body worked it. There's a little bit of something going on over here. We can address that. And again, the tail light can kind of move a little bit. So we'll figure a home for it. Might end up just leaving it with that little bit of a gap, maybe. I don't know, and just file that away. I'll make the decision later on, but you get it. I mean, there it is. There's a little bit of a gap there, a little rough there. I think I'm gonna end up taking the antenna out and just delete it. I might just fill it. It'll probably make it easier to transition this big divot that was there. Just make it kind of a little bit more smoother. But other than that, it's looking pretty decent. As I showed you guys all earlier, bumper is not really on, just kind of resting there. Yeah, it needs to go up, but again, not everything's bolted up at the moment. But the idea is there. So this tail light kind of sticks out a little bit, which I can maybe address that. And this one sticks in. All right, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I appreciate everybody for watching. If you guys got any questions, comments, concerns, throw it in the comments below. I know this is not a very ordinary or orthodox way of probably repairing this. I'm trying to keep it as cheap as I can, track rack car. So next up on the agenda, I need to, and obviously continue working back there, but it's coming along. I need to do some coilovers, some tires, get the car registered and so forth, just so I can cruise it down to the track, alignment, simple things like that. I gotta get a seat in it still, and the brake master, it works, but the brake pedal just feels a little off, not something that I wanna feel. And so just stay, you know, upcoming videos, we're gonna be getting the car, just getting ready to go on the track with small little things here and there. So I know I already said it, but I appreciate it for watching. Stay tuned for the next video.